Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Lada, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Stone, Vidak, Wykowski, Wolk.
We are absent a quorum. If our Senate sergeants can please call the members, have them come to the Senate immediately so we can begin on time. Thank you. Do I make them call the roll? Okay. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen, Anderson, Bates, Bell, Berryhill, Block, Canella, De Leon, Fuller, Gaines, Galgiani, Hall, Hancock, Hernandez, Hertzberg, Hill, Hueso, Huff, Jackson, Lada, Leno, Leyva, Liu, McGuire, Mendoza, Mitchell, Monning, Morrell, Wynn, Nilsson, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Stone, Vidak, Wykowski, Wolk.
Senators, a quorum is present. Would the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Sister Michelle Gorman, after which please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Mark Leno.
Let us bring our minds and hearts into God's presence. God of all compassion and consolation, we pray today for our beloved country and state, for our leaders, citizens, critics, and those without advocates. May we act as those who discern that you are at work with us in making the history of our time. May we weigh wisely, calculate boldly, act justly, and invest our short time and strength in those things that promote the common good. O God of all, may we grow in awareness of the ways that you answer our prayers by using us to answer the prayers of our brothers and sisters. May we not fail in creativity, nor falter in generosity, as we serve the needs of our human family. Amen.
Members, moving to privileges of the floor, I believe Senator Hill. Senator Hill at Senator De Leon's desk. Members, if we can please give Senator Hill our undivided attention, we would greatly appreciate that. Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm happy today to present a resolution to G.V. Ayers, who retired from the Senate Committee on Business Professions and Economic Development in December. G.V. started with the committee in 1993 before expanding his horizons to serve as the bureau chief for the Cemetery and Funeral Bureau in the California Department of Consumer Affairs. As bureau chief, G.V. dedicated himself to regulating funeral and cemetery services, maintaining budgetary oversight for the agency, as well as taking legal action against people who victimized vulnerable consumers. G.V. made his debut on C-SPAN in April 2000 when he testified before the United States Senate in Washington, D.C. about unscrupulous practices by funeral homes and addressed existing consumer protections as well as government oversight and potential future efforts to monitor the funeral industry. In 2005, G.V. returned to the California State Senate as a consultant to the Senate Committee on Business Professions and Economic Development, where he continued to be recognized for his valuable contributions and efforts to elevate the level of work and public policy accomplished by the committee. He served as the lead consultant for the committee's sunset review of numerous boards and bureaus under the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Senate, and the sunrise review of new board and licensing proposals, including crafting and managing consumer protection legislation based on review findings and those recommendations. He served under the leadership of 7 chairs and through the years was known as a go-to person on legislation impacting consumers. Please join me in congratulating G.V. on his retirement and extending our appreciation and our best wishes for good luck in all of his future endeavors. G.V., thank you.
On behalf of the entire Senate family, congratulations and good luck. Members will be moving to messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committee will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Moving to motions and resolutions. Members, under motions and resolutions, without objection, a photographer will be allowed on the floor for today's session. Without objection, the Senate journals for January 26 through January 29 will be approved as corrected by the minute clerk. Senator Stone.
Mr. President, I respectfully request unanimous consent to take up SR 10 without reference to committee or file.
Without objection, Secretary, please read.
Senate Resolution 10 by Senator Stone relative to the liberation of Auschwitz 70th anniversary.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, good morning. I rise to present Senate Resolution 10. Senate Resolution 10 is an important resolution which commemorates the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp 70 years ago. I have personally visited Auschwitz, which has been maintained by the Polish government as a memorial to all the millions of innocent people murdered because of their religious beliefs, because of their sexual orientation, because of their nationality, and because of their political ideologies. On Tuesday, leaders throughout the world joined with survivors to remember this day and to remind everyone that we cannot forget what happened at Auschwitz. It's particularly personal for me in that my great-grandmother, Molly Goldstein, one of 9 children of Polish descent, was the only member of her family to flee Poland during the uprising of Hitler. All of her siblings, her parents, her cousins, her aunts and uncles, all met their fate in the ovens at Auschwitz. 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust, with over 1 million killed at Auschwitz alone. When the Soviet army arrived, they liberated over 7,000 remaining prisoners, many of whom suffering from malnutrition and disease. As the years pass, it becomes more and more important to reflect and remember the hatred and evil of that time. History ignored is history that is allowed to repeat itself. Unfortunately, we are witnessing religious extremism today, claiming thousands of innocent lives in the Middle East and in other volatile parts of the world. As leaders of the free world, we must stand up to these injustices globally. In the memories of all of those that perished in Auschwitz and at other concentration camps, I respectfully ask for your vote here today on Senate Resolution 10. Thank you.
Members, debate or discussion on this item. Senator Block.
I just rise briefly to thank Senator Stone for bringing this resolution forward. He has said everything that I think needs to be said on the subject in a very passionate and articulate opening comments. So I just support the resolution and urge your vote in support of the resolution.
Any other debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the... Oh, Senator Stone, would you like to close on this issue?
Thank you, members of the Senate. I appreciate your consideration of this very important resolution.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Cannella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Galgiani. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Aye. Huff. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Lada. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leyva. Aye. Liu. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Monning. Aye. Morrell. Aye. Wynn. Aye. Nilsson. Aye. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Stone.
Aye.
Aye. Vidak. Aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 35, no 0. The measure is adopted.
Thank you.
Members, moving back to privileges of the floor, Senator Block at Senator Monning's desk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today. We just spoke of horrible atrocities that occurred in Germany and in Europe during World War II. I rise to talk about a dark period in our own history, also coming out of World War II. I rise today to ask you to join me in commemorating a persistent voice for civil liberty in our country, Fred Korematsu. And for those who don't know the story, and many of you, maybe most of you do, but Mr. Korematsu was 23 years old When after the attacks on Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt issued Executive Order 9066, granting Secretary of War Henry Stimson the authority to remove citizens of Japanese descent from the west coast of the United States and transport them to internment camps. On May 30th of 1942, Mr. Korematsu, then only 23, refused to go. He was arrested and convicted of defying the order and appealed his case to the U.S. Supreme Court. The court in 1944 ruled against him, but finally at age 64, U.S. District Court Judge Marilyn Patel overturned his conviction, and acknowledged, this is a quote from the judge, "A grave injustice was done to American citizens and residents of Japanese ancestry who, without any evidence against them, were removed and detained by the United States during World War II." Mr. Korematsu went on to lobby Congress for the passage of the Civil Liberties Act, and in 1998 received the nation's highest civilian honor from President Clinton, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. On June 11, 1998, Mr. Korematsu received the first California Senate medal. Mr. Korematsu's daughter, Karen, founded the Fred T. Korematsu Institute in 2009, and with her help the following year, Assemblymember Warren Fioritani and I successfully jointly authored AB 1775 that declared every January 30th as the Fred Korematsu Day of Civil Liberties and the Constitution. On that date, which of course is tomorrow, schools throughout the state pause to discuss civics and civil liberties and the importance of not repeating that horrible mistake. As the executive director of the Fred T. Korematsu Institute and through speaking engagements, Fred's daughter Karen carries on her father's legacy by fighting for social equality and justice. Now it's my honor to introduce to you Karen Korematsu and to present her first with a certificate of recognition, which will be followed once we get it from the printer with a very nice framed resolution. Ms. Korematsu.
Senator Pan on this item.
Well, thank you, Senator Block. I want to thank you and Karen Korematsu for your work on establishing Fred Korematsu Day. As was mentioned, Senator Block was one of the co-sponsors of the bill that would make Fred Korematsu Day the first day named after an Asian American, and Karen Korematsu played a pivotal role in this bill's success. And certainly earlier this week, my API colleagues and I attended multiple API events that celebrated growing API leadership here in the state. But these events highlight why it's important to remember and educate people about Fred Korematsu's story. The work that he did served as a fundamental base for not only API groups, but for all civil rights groups. And his lessons continue to remind us to fight for what is right. So as we continue to protect and serve the people of California, the Korematsu legacy continues to be relevant. I want to thank you, Ms. Korematsu, for keeping the legacy strong, for your continued efforts in standing up for what is right here in California. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pan. Members still under privileges of the floor, Senator De Leon.
Mr. President, thank you very much, as well as colleagues. I present this resolution to the Honorable Carlos Gonzalez Gutierrez, who has the official title as Ambassador. Ambassador Gonzalez, sadly, is leaving his position as the Consul General of Mexico in Sacramento after 5 years of exemplary service to the Mexican community in Northern California. He is here today with his lovely wife, Alina Flores de Gonzalez. Ambassador Gonzalez Gutierrez has served with the Mexican Foreign Service since 1987, including serving as Counsel for Community Affairs at the Consulate in Los Angeles and Counselor of Hispanic Affairs at the Embassy of Mexico in Washington, D.C. As Consul General in Sacramento, he has led efforts to ensure that the consulate served as a resource for community engagement, immigrant legal assistance, as well as college readiness programming. Throughout his tenure, Ambassador Gonzalez Gutierrez has worked in a very collaborative fashion with members of the California State Legislature to advance international cooperation between California and Mexico's chief policymakers. He was very instrumental and a very critical piece for those who just recently had an opportunity to go with the governor to Mexico City in coordinating the governor's mission with Mexico. This is a trip that I participated in and in organizing the president of Mexico's trip to California last year. Now, be mindful, the president of Mexico, Enrique Peña Nieto, his first official diplomatic trip as president of Mexico was not to Washington, D.C., not to Chicago or New York, but to Sacramento, California. And that is because of Ambassador Gonzalez Gutierrez. As a result of his efforts, California officials and the public as a whole have developed a better understanding of Mexican culture, relations, as well as the concerns on both sides of the border. I have worked very closely with Carlos for many, many years. In fact, I had the honor of getting to know Carlos for the very first time when I was an activist, a community advocate for one-stop immigration and educational center back in the day when I was an organizer of immigrants. And that's where I met Carlos when he was working for the General Counsel of Mexico in Los Angeles. Now, it's sad he is leaving the state capital of Sacramento, but he's going to another state capital, and that is the state of Texas, Austin, Texas specifically. There, he'll obviously engage with the governor, as well as the heads of the Senate, as well as the Assembly and other elected officials in the great state of Texas. However, I know that the Mexican communities across California are better off for the work that he has done on their behalf. Please join me in congratulating Ambassador Carlos Gonzalez Gutierrez in his new position and thank him for the many efforts to serve the residents of the state of California.
Senators, on this item, members, if we can have your attention, please. Senator Huff, on this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, would like to rise and recognize the job well done by Ambassador Gutierrez. You know, our two governments have very close ties. You know, Mexico certainly is a nation. California is a world economy. And you could say our closeness is literally in our DNA. But as two separate governments, we have a lot of very necessary needs. And he's done an exemplary job of working through those, navigating and helping us. So I, too, rise in recognition of his tremendous contributions. Appreciate all you've done. Wish you well. But once again, we've lost a valuable resident of California to Texas. When is this going to end?
Senator Wesso.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also rise to bid farewell and to offer my gratitude to my good friend, Carlos Gonzalez Gutierrez, for his remarkable service to both Mexico and the state of California. Of course, many of you have heard how instrumental he has been in providing a dialogue, facilitating a dialogue between elected officials here in Mexico and here in California, but also in reaching out to Mexicans abroad here in California who provide such a great contribution to our state, and providing them services and in many cases moral support. You'd be hard-pressed to find that a lot of people here that are from Mexico feel that nostalgia from their country, and he comes here and brings a lot of the country here with the celebrations of the independence celebrations and the various celebrations that many Mexicans and the descendants of Mexicans, such as myself, are very proud of. I, as the former chair of the Assembly Select Committee on Binational Affairs and a member of the Senate's Committee on Mexico-California Cooperation. I have worked with Carlos since I got here in 2010 on working on improving that dialogue with Mexico and teaching people about the importance of working with Mexico. California, although we are very friendly to Mexico, we still have a lot to learn about how we can improve relations with Mexico. How can we improve the cultural exchanges, the economic exchanges? Mexico is such an important trading partner to California. There is much more opportunity for us to work together in helping us succeed our respective goals of creating a better society for the people of our communities. So in that regard, I'm very sad to see you go to Texas and Austin there, but I know that you're going to make a huge impact in that state. That's a state that really needs the services that you're going to go there to provide. And in that regard, I feel very happy for the people of Texas in that they're going to get a great champion come to their state and I think provide a very wonderful contribution. So thank you very much.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to follow up on the remark of Senator Benahueso, although we lose a great champion that fosters those cultural ties between Mexico and California, with his departure to Texas, we know that Texas needs all the help it can get, obviously. So that's why we send the best. And with that, I introduce the Ambassador, Carlos Gutierrez Gonzalez.
Mr. President Pro Tem, thank you very much. Mr. President, Senator Lara, Senator Hueso, Senator Huff, thank you very much for your kind welcome. On behalf of myself and my wife, Alina, who's joining me, and the many friends who, thank you very much, have come, many of them members of Cien Amigos and the Mexican Cultural Center of Northern California, I want to thank this House, I want to thank the Senate for the complete turnaround that we from Mexico and Mexicans here in California see about the way California has received us, is welcoming new immigrants, and is leading the nation in terms of helping those newcomers to integrate into U.S. society. When I met President Pro Tem 20-something years ago, I met him when he was at One Stop Immigration. It was a very tough time. Back then, Proposition 187 was approved and then fought in the courts. And 20 years later, now, I have been fortunate enough to be the witness of how you, the governor, and your colleagues in the other chamber have changed completely the regime that welcomes my nationals, my fellow Mexicans, and many other immigrants to this state. A state in which almost 1/3 of its population is of Mexican origin, almost 1/3. California is the 8th economy in the world, thanks to its talent and its workforce. But believe me, it would be very difficult to explain that prosperity without the contribution of the Mexican immigrants that have come for decades to this state. Fortunately for us, unfortunately for California, that flow is almost zero now. And it has been zero for the last 4 years. A new status quo will have to be defined. A new regime is going to come out from this reality of a zero flow of immigrants from Mexico. It's good for us because that immigration is our loss. But I'm sure that with your leadership, with the leadership of the governor, and with the leadership of the Assembly, we will rise to the occasion and we will be able to strengthen even more the ties, the bonds that unite Mexico and California, as was evident when you received my president, President Peña Nieto, a couple of months ago. Muchísimas gracias. Es un gran honor para mí. Les agradezco mucho. Gracias.
On behalf of the entire Senate, Ambassador Gutierrez, felicidades, buena suerte, and go show them how we do in California. Members, we're going to move to introductions and first reading of bills. Bills are deemed read. Moving to consideration of the daily file. We're going to move to governor's appointments. Members, that's item 2 on your daily file. Senator De Leon, if you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we have file item number 2 that is before us. We have 2 governor's appointments. That is Joe Xavier as well as John Kapitman. Mr. Xavier is an appointment as director of the Department of Rehabilitation. And Mr. John Kapitman is a member of the San Joaquin Valley Unified Air Pollution Control District.
Members, if we can please give Senator De Leon your undivided attention, we would greatly appreciate that.
Now, these appointments were heard in the Rules Committee on January 21st and were approved on a bipartisan vote, 5-0, no opposition. Not only is Mr. Xavier highly qualified to run the Department of Rehabilitation, but he is, in fact, an inspirational leader. For those who don't know, Mr. Xavier is blind. And to be the director of one of the state agencies, as what was articulated during the Rules Committee hearing, he's not just inspirational to those who have physical or developmental disabilities, but he is an inspiration to all Californians. Very well qualified. Dr. Kapitman is a public health researcher and professor from the Central Valley. His expertise is critical to the board as it works to find a balance between minimizing the grotesque amount of air pollution in the San Joaquin Valley area and improving the health of those, and plus improving the economy, which is much needed in the Central Valley. With that, Mr. President, as well as colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? Bates? Aye. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? Block? Aye. Canella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? Aye. Gaines? Aye. Galgiani? Aye. Hall? Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? Aye. Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leyva? Liu? McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morrell? Aye. Wynn? Aye. Nilsson? Aye. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Aye. Stone? Aye. Vidak? Aye. Wykowski? Aye. Wolk?
Call the absent members.
Wolk, aye. Anderson? Aye. Berryhill? Hall? Aye. Leyva? Aye. Liu?
Ayes 35, no 0. The appointments are confirmed. Moving to moving to unfinished business. Senator Mendoza for item 3. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 3 by Senator Mendoza relative to India Republic Day.
Senator Mendoza.
Mr. President, members, SCR 3 is back for concurrence, and SCR 3 proclaims January 26 as Indian Republic Day. Simply adds amendments that were added in the Assembly. SCR 3 has not received any no votes, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Members, debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Is there any objection to utilizing a unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 35, no 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Members, we're returning to motions and resolutions. Senator Leno.
Mr. President, adjourn in memory. Thank you, colleagues. I ask that you join me in remembering and honoring the life of Bob Morales, who is a dynamic and major civic leader not only in San Francisco and the Bay Area, but throughout the state of California. He was born in El Salvador and came to the United States when he was 16 years old in 1958, beginning his career with the metal polishers and platers local, and then moving to the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, where he served for 40 years as the secretary-treasurer. He really was a powerful spirit and a great mentor to many who were engaged in civic participation and political activities in the San Francisco Bay Area. He also was very proud of the fact that in his other work as leader in the waste industry, fighting for the best working conditions, benefits, and wages for the men and women who work tirelessly in that industry. He also, of course, was involved with any number of nonprofit and volunteer efforts. And it was last summer that Senator Hill and I joined others in recognizing him when he was presented with the award by the San Mateo County Central Labor Council. He's survived by his wife, Maria, son David, stepson Alberto, daughter Jacqueline, and 7 grandchildren. Please join me in remembering a life well lived as we send his family our love and support.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Senator Bell on this item.
Mr. President and members, I want to also rise in memory of Bob Morales. Bob Morales was a tenacious union leader in our area. He had to be, because he was the union leader for all the sanitation workers working with the sanitation companies. And there was a lot of tough ongoing negotiations for the rights of the workers in terms of wages, benefits, and conditions of employment. Bob Morales also was a fighter for social justice and was very involved in fighting for the rights of immigrants and social justice in our community. I've known Bob Morales, or Bobby as I know him, for about 25 years. Bobby was always able to come and fight for good causes in our community and contribute to the neediest in our community. He will be remembered for leading the effort to have minimum wage in the Bay Area, as well as improving working conditions for those that have the toughest, hardest jobs, such as the sanitation workers. We will miss him dearly and remember his passion and dedication to those in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bell. Senator, if you can please send Mr. Morales' family our condolences and bring his name forward so it can be properly memorialized. Senator Monning.
Yes, purposes of an announcement. Members, there will be a members-only reception to give our best wishes to Consul General Carlos Gonzalez immediately upon adjournment in room 317. Members only. All members are encouraged to drop by. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Monning. If there's no other business, Senator De Leon, the desk is clear.
Thank you much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I hope you have a very wonderful Thursday as well as Friday, a productive weekend. For those, I know many of you will be working throughout Saturday and Sunday, even Sunday with Super Bowl coming down the pipeline with so many events that we have in our communities. I hope you have a very wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Session will be at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator DeLeon. The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Monday at 2 p.m. Have a good weekend.